I can name four big game changers in our practice that completely changed the way we practice medicine. Advanced lipid testing, uh, hormone replacement, um, GLP-1s, and the InBody, right? I would say those four big things changed the trajectory of where we were going with medicine.
Welcome to Beyond the Scale. I'm your host, Bradley Davie, and this podcast exists to educate and empower the next generation of healthcare providers. We're here to share powerful tips, tricks, tools, and resources to catalyze your growth in the application of InBody's ecosystem of health assessment tools. Today, we're going to talk about how body composition is applied in medicine to impact nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management, hormone optimization, genetics, brain protection, and healthy social interactions. My guests today are Dr. Brian Moraes and Deanna Weilbacher. Together, they founded the Hybrid Medical Solution, where they take the approach that the body should be treated as a whole entity rather than individual organ systems. Their plan for their patients includes body composition analysis alongside traditional medicine, functional and natural holistic medicine, and lifestyle changes. Welcome to Beyond the Scale, Dr. Brian and Deanna. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
Hello,
Bradley.
thank you. We're excited to
Fantastic.
be here.
Thank you. And I'm excited to have you here as well. I feel like you guys have so much knowledge that our viewers could learn from. So take me back to when you guys were getting started in your business and what your philosophy of care is, if you could dive a little bit deeper into that for us.
Sure. So I'm a traditionally trained internal medicine doctor. I did my residency at in Tulane in New Orleans, and I also did a fellowship in nephrology. So that's about as traditional medicine as you can get. And for many years, I had a busy practice, but over time, I realized, it seemed like I was more putting out fires than actually addressing the root cause of illness and preventing illness. So I really started getting more into prevention. I eventually became a fellow of the American Society of Preventive Cardiology, which we're still heavily involved in preventive cardiology. But over time, we started adding non-traditional therapies to our patients. So on top of medication, which we have now become kind of, I won't say anti-medicine, but we use medicine as more of the last resort rather than throwing people on medications just so that we can make the visit go by faster. We started adding hormone optimization, and then I met Deanna, who also had similar philosophy. So I'll let her tell you about herself.
So I'm a physician assistant. I graduated from South University in Tampa, and I did traditional medicine with internal medicine practice in Clearwater for a few years. And yes, I agree. Like at that time, I was just putting people on medication and making sure they were compliant with their medication. And, if I didn't really know of many alternative options at that time, or that wasn't, we didn't have the time to discuss that. Then I moved over to South Florida here. I actually have a little background with addiction medicine I did. So at that time, I was also putting out fires. And then I met him in 2019. And I think learning the more holistic option, putting people on vitamins, I saw a change of how we can actually prevent people from having to start antihypertensive or blood pressure medications if we can correct their lifestyle modification. And that's when I became introduced to the InBody. And I said, we need to get this in our office and we can use this a lot. And that's when everything kind of took off.
Can you take me through then what it's like for a new patient to come into Hybrid Medical Solution? What kind of things are you going to learn about them? What kind of assessments are you going to do? Obviously, body composition is a part of that, but what does it look like for a new patient?
So still in medicine, one of the most important things you can do is a history, right? You have to get the history of the patient. You have to get the family history, because we can beat a lot of things, but we can't beat our genetics, right? That's kind of set in stone, and we have to deal with what we've been given. So there's so many things that we can find out by just talking to the patients. Many patients have had a long history of yo-yo diets, right? Where they lose weight and then they gain weight. So people have problem with heart disease in their family. Um, and so after that, I would say then our second step is to do detailed blood work. But I will tell you that part of our first visit with every patient, no matter what, whether they're thin, whether they're heavy, if they have no weight problem, happy with their weight, look fit, we put everyone on the InBody.
Old, young, anybody. We want to see where they are, and we know that age doesn't matter. There's no discrimination with this. We feel, everybody should have an optimal body composition, and we can work towards that. And we like to educate a lot here in our practice.
And let me tell you, one of the biggest hurdles we had in the beginning is so we would have patient come into the office, right, whose BMI, which BMI is still probably widely used by insurance companies and by other practices. BMI is normal, say a BMI of 22, and we put them on a body composition analysis scale and find out that their body fat percentage puts them in close to being obese, even though they're normal BMI. So then we tell them they need to lose weight. Then they go tell other doctors or their friends, well, I saw this doctor who says I need to lose weight. And the first thing they say, well, that doctor's crazy. What are they? They're quacks if they're telling you need to lose weight. You're normal.
Well, I
Yeah.
think a lot of it, we also, recommend strength training. We're big about muscle building too.
Do you ever find that your patients, after they, expand in their understanding of body composition, that they kind of jump on board more, or through that education, you're able to help them become more committed to their health care?
Absolutely. I do a lot, in our practice, we do a lot of weight loss in general, but I have patients where once we introduce them to this, they're like, well, how often can I come get this done? And we discuss a workout. I find it very motivating. Every now and then we find where a patient is a little hesitant. They find this like almost like overwhelming. And so then we take it time, like piece by piece. And that's when I do recommend, hey, why don't you come in and see me monthly? Let's work on little steps at a time. And we set goals, let's work on the calories first, even though I'm not really big on calories. I'm more on macronutrients personally. But, we just make little steps. How many steps can you get in a day? Are you active at all? Like with just those little lifestyle modifications that we can have set, 2 or 3 goals for that month. And then we have them come back in a month and we just see if it had any change on their InBody. And that's been hugely beneficial. And getting people motivated, I think.
And it's also nice that we can evaluate people's fluid status, right?
Yes.
With my training in nephrology, fluid and electrolytes, that was a major part of what we did. And we never had a great way of tracking people's fluid balance. And this has actually helped quite a bit with that.
One of the cool things about the technology, for those who don't know, is it's a bioelectric impedance analyzer. So when you stand on the scale and you hold onto the handlebars, it's sending small, safe currents through your body, and it actually uses those minerals and electrolytes in your body to conduct that electricity, because we are bioelectric beings, and this is just a way we can use that to measure our body composition. You mentioned nutrition and macronutrients, and how do you look at the result sheet when you think about nutrition and use that to help the patients?
So I see if they're where their muscle composition is basically, and if they're not in the range of where they need to be at their goal, then I really focus on a protein diet. In that sense, a majority of people, what I find is they're not getting enough protein in our diets, and the protein they are getting is usually processed. They're stopping and getting, cold cut sandwiches, or they're going through a drive-through or fast food chain, something like that. So we really hone in on, let's eliminate the processed foods, let's eat clean, because I also can tell if somebody has inflammation through the InBody as well. And so if I see their indicator is they're retaining fluid, we also address those things. So I really like to just start with kind of using the basal metabolic rate as well that you guys put on there, with the total, how many calories they're burning at rest, right? And we start with that. And I'm not really a fan of calorie restriction. So I would rather them just increase their activity, and we get them to maintain their BMR, and then we can build muscle, and then we can always cut And that's how I like to do it personally.
We find that many people who are trying to lose weight and are stuck somewhere just aren't eating enough. And they don't realize that not eating enough is as bad as eating too much.
You lose muscle when you're not eating the right, a number of calories alone. Calories is what builds muscle. And I know you can choose keto, you can do carnivore, you can do whatever diet. You're going to be able to build muscle if you're getting enough nutrition in general. But I am a believer that you do need some carbs. And so we try to work on eating the healthy carbs. Especially if somebody needs to bulk up a little more. If they're trying to lean, then we can avoid the carbs. But I really want to make sure they're getting enough protein and the right calories for that. I always give an example of, you can have a plate that's like 1,200 calories and it's McDonald's with French fries and a Diet Coke. And you can have on this plate the same calories, but it's salmon with brown rice and broccoli. And everybody knows what plate they should choose. It's just a matter of implementing it.
Do you have any kind of tips or tricks that you share around nutrition to help people to eat more of the salmon and the brown rice and the broccoli rather than, something else that may even, have a higher sodium or more sugar in it that, so, to their mind, it actually, tastes better or feels better to eat that rather than the other one?
I personally am a huge fan of the meal prep programs. I personally use a local one here that is farm to table. They deliver them straight to my front door. We're all busy. Everybody has a busy lifestyle, but you can pick like at least, 2 meals a day, get your lunch and dinner, and they provide you with sufficient calories. Sometimes I feel like they're actually not enough calories. Even there are times after I eat it and I'm like still hungry, but then I also have healthy snacks after, or I'll do Greek yogurt and fruit after for a dessert, or, so I always work with people and trying to figure out their lifestyle, how we can modify it. Some of our patients have a personal chef that actually is very affordable, that somebody can come in and do meal prep for you. You would think that's very expensive, but it's really not. You can also, the grocery stores nowadays are even doing meal preps for you. So you don't have to spend more to have the accessibility of healthy food in your refrigerator. And I always discuss healthy go-to snacks that they can have on hand. And with us having a concierge practice as well, we have nutritionists at hand and health coaches that help our patients as well. And then we're also big fans of intermittent fasting. If you want to touch.
Yeah, and we're big fans of fasting in many different forms, not just intermittent, which is also time-restricted eating. But we're fans of the long-term fasting mimicking diets where you do a 3 to 5 day fast. But what Deanna was saying is absolutely true. Planning ahead makes a huge difference. If you're planning ahead, you're less likely to go have an impulse meal, but you're less likely to just go eat something that you're craving at that moment.
They always say, don't go to the grocery store hungry, right? Because you're going to buy anything and everything, and then it's going to sit in your fridge. You're never going to eat it. So it's, if you go with a list, you buy what's on the list and you get out. That's another trick, And I always say, if you're going to the grocery store, shop on the outside perimeter. Everything down the aisles is processed crap. Don't even go there. Just stay on the outside perimeter if you can and eat whole foods. That's really what we try to promote. And if you talk about time, okay, grab an apple. An apple's easy. You can take it with you. You can eat it in the car. Grab cheese stick if you want. There's a lot of things that are still easy to have on the go.
And the other thing we tell our patients is that everybody's different. What works for one person is not necessarily going to work for someone else. We did a podcast recently with one of our patients where he was obese, morbidly obese, and is now a competitive bodybuilder. And he talked about his transition and how he did that. And if you see the pictures, it's amazing, the before and after pictures. But what worked for him may work for some people, may work for most people, but it's not going to work for everybody.
And I honestly think a lot of it is accountability. And that's why we like to follow with our patients regularly, every month. And I like to put them on the InBody because the InBody I like to say it doesn't lie. It's way more specific and data driven than a regular scale. You can have the same weight, as everybody knows. People come in, they're like, well, the scale didn't budge. I said, let's go to the InBody. Sure enough, it showed they gained muscle and burned fat. The scale didn't budge because they balanced out in the right direction. And I get so excited about that. And I always have to show them, I'm like, look, this is in their visceral fat. That's another thing that you guys measure that I love is the watching the visceral fat, the dangerous fat that leads to heart disease and diabetes, like to see that come down. And that's where now people are like, did that number change yet? And I'm like, well, it takes about, from what I've experienced with our InBody is I see it go down every like 2 to 3% of body fat. So, I give them a goal. I can analyze like, okay, if we're losing about this much on average per month, now we can plan to do this monthly follow-up for the next 12 months to get you to goal. We have a good goal, like, a deadline in a sense.
Let's talk more about exercise and how that relates to the program that you guys are providing. Are you helping the patients exercise, or do you refer them out to different places too with other trainers or coaches, or how is that structured, and how does it relate to the result sheet when you're discussing that with them?
So I actually will demonstrate exercises in the room with my patients because I like to see if they can do it. And if they look at me like their head is spinning, I said, okay, let's step back and do a different one. Let's try a different modified. And I show them like even 3 easy exercises they could go home and do at home. They don't need a gym membership necessarily. We discuss, I show them how they can get on Pinterest and pull up anything there, like a 10 workout routine that they could do at home with either a resistant band or some light weights that they might already have, or they can go purchase 10-pound dumbbells or something like that. We see what works for them and their budget. I'm a big fan of resistant bands, and you can order those on Amazon in different weights, and you can progress. You start with the light ones. You can always get up to the heavier duty ones. And then I like to know, like, what's their living space? If they live in a small apartment that doesn't have a gym, then we need to know like what they can do on like maybe just a yoga mat, So we definitely work with them and take that time to learn their lifestyle and how we can modify it, and giving them goals of 3 days a week, or even, zero, like going from 0 days to 2 days a week or whatnot. But we're big on muscle training or resistance training, muscle building. So if they can go to the gym, I would prefer that. And some of our members just prefer, like, they're like, well, I'm new to this. So they might get a personal trainer for a few sessions, and then they'll remember kind of their routine. So it's definitely helping them hold accountable, and seeing the muscle growth is motivating.
And we're also living in an age now where technology has come so far, and we recommend our patients take advantage of everything they can. So we like using the continuous glucose monitors on our non-diabetic patients. It's a great way to track nutrition. Deanna and I both wear the Oura Ring.
Mm-hmm.
We love that. I mean, it gives us constant data on sleep, on exercise, HRV, which is another important parameter to track.
Is now doing the VO2 max,
right,
which is really cool.
And so when we are in a room with one of our patients and we see them, they're wearing an Oura Ring or have a Whoop or Apple Watch, first thing, one of the first things we do is say, pull up your data. We want to see your HRV.
Yeah.
And again, it's just like the InBody. It's another tool. It's another great piece of technology. People don't have to go spend a ton of money on gym equipment and join an expensive membership gym. You can do a lot of things at home, and resistance bands are great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually have, during COVID, a lot of people started working at home. So a lot of people are working out at home. So a lot of people already have like a little bit of equipment, I think, at their accessibility. So, but there's also, during COVID, I think there were people who became fitness instructors, web-based, so I personally used one. She was a bodybuilder. And so now she does online exercise routines, and she'll also give you like a meal prep program that she'll tell you, like, based off your weight, how many calories you need to do. You send in photos of yourself to her, and then she tells you, she comes up with a plan for you. And then you have a whole exercise regimen that's just on your phone. So I go into my garage, which is where I work out, and I can pull up the videos and I can watch what she does, and then I go and do it. And it's very easy. I finish my workout within 30 to 60 minutes. And she even gives you options as well. Well, if you're running out of time, only do 2 sets of these, not 3. And so that I refer my patients to her program a lot. And there's a lot of other ones out there. That is just, it's very easy to follow.
You mentioned whoops or Oura rings, those kind of allude to like stress management or maybe even recovery and sleep. Tell me more about how you incorporate that in there and how it relates to body composition. Do you see any similarities, or do you tie the data together on the two of those?
I think the mind and body is definitely connected. And I find a majority of my patients who are constantly beating themselves up mentally for not succeeding, or they're high stress with work, family, finances, whatnot. Those are my patients who struggle to lose weight the most. I truly believe we have to work on settling your mind first, and then we can work on building the muscle in the body. And when you get good sleep, you make better choices. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but it is known thing that when you don't get good sleep, that donut that somebody offers you in the morning definitely looks more appealing if I only got 4 hours of sleep versus when I have 8. I'm like, no, I'm good. I can pass that up and I don't even crave it. I don't want it. This is a balance of your cortisol. And this is just known facts out there. And then if you don't meal prep, the same thing, and you're not getting good sleep and you're stressed out and you just need something quick, you're going to go grab the next thing that you're just hungry, or something that's just really crappy. And then that's just a spiral, a constant vicious cycle that you just can't get out of. So I always want people to start with getting good sleep.
And it's not just the duration of sleep. You can sleep 8 hours, but if you track your data, you might only have like 4 minutes of deep sleep. It's very important to see the stages of sleep that you actually hit, because not all sleep is good quality sleep. And you talked earlier when you introduced us, you mentioned our practices, 8 pillars of health that we utilize. And one of them is healthy social interactions, right? And that's crucial. People have to have healthy social interactions. And one of the things when people are overweight and when they're unhealthy is that they may not be having the social interactions that they would like to have.
Start isolating themselves. They don't go out because they don't know what to wear or things like that. Or they go out and they go out frequently and they're eating and drinking. And now we have to try to figure out what they can do when they're doing those things. When they do go out, how can we make it a healthier option, right? But another thing that we are really big on is sleep studies. So we do a lot of screening for sleep apnea. And it's amazing how many people have underlying sleep apnea and don't even realize it. And so we can tell that from the data that we can pull up, and we do sleep studies at home. And once we correct that, we can see all of a sudden, like, the weight starts coming off.
And if we can emphasize, everybody who's overweight, everybody who's complaining of fatigue, diabetics, should have a sleep study done. You should know if you have sleep apnea, that is something that you're going to have a hard time struggling with your cortisol balance, with your weight, with everything, unless you fix that.
Do you notice any of the outputs on the InBody would relate to somebody that was having sleep apnea or challenges sleeping?
I don't think there's anything that alerts me or alarms me with that per se, but I would, if they're doing everything right and not able to lose or not gaining muscle or able to burn the fat, if we're just not seeing something, then I have to investigate a little more. And that's my kind of like aha moment of what's really going on under the hood kind of thing. Like something's going on that you don't know and you're not telling me.
There's a great key that we use sometimes in our practices. If we have people on GLP-1s, now everyone who's trying to lose weight is on a GLP-1. Every doctor is prescribing GLP-1s. They're pretty widespread. But there are some people who are on GLP-1s who aren't losing weight, right? And in those people who aren't losing weight, we look at them and we follow them on the InBody, and their body fat percentage is staying the same, and they may be actually losing muscle. They could have a cortisol issue, and we can figure that out and we can treat that. There's a simple test to do, a dexamethasone suppression test. So the InBody can help point to some of those abnormalities.
Speaking of looking under the hood further, you mentioned the GLP-1s for weight loss. Mm-hmm. Something else that you guys work on is hormone replacements and peptides. Tell me more about how that relates to body composition, and what kind of insights do you gain from looking at the result sheet across somebody's journey through those?
I don't think there's been a bigger game change. Okay, I can name four big game changers in our practice that completely changed the way we practice medicine. Advanced lipid testing, uh, hormone replacement, um, GLP-1s, and the InBody, right? I would say those four big things changed the trajectory of where we were going with medicine. Hormone replacement, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Mm.
There's so many doctors who are afraid of hormones, and so don't, if they're afraid of it, they're not going to offer their patients. Um, they don't check their hormones, and when they do check them and they find they're abnormal, they don't replace them. We have found that so many patients, once you testosterone for one, testosterone is not just important for men; it's important for women too. It's probably the single most important female hormone that doesn't have to do with reproduction. Thyroid also, we're big on thyroid. And when we fix someone's testosterone or fix someone's thyroid, their muscles are able to adapt as well. They're able to build muscle a little easier. They're able to burn fat a little easier.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. Even people who don't work out, which regardless of how much we can educate, there's going to be people who just don't. And we always do an InBody on all of our hormone replacement patients, before hormones and then after at their follow-ups. And I had a gentleman that was saying, I'm gaining weight. And I'm like, okay, well, he also has heart failure. And so I'm always telling him to work out. I really want to see that improvement in his lifestyle, but it's just not going to happen. So he, came in and did the InBody, and he burned fat and gained muscle. And he only gained 2 pounds, but it was the muscle is what he gained. And he actually went down on his fat, and he was not even on any weight loss medications or anything like that. And he was astonished. He's like, well, how did this happen? I was like, we did hormones. Like, I guarantee just by increasing your testosterone to a normal, healthy level, I mean, we're not making people like the Hulk here. We're getting people back to where they felt good, and young again, about 10 to 20 year reversal, I feel. So, it was just amazing that doing his everyday living activities, like he was golfing, he was able to build muscle. So, and I see all the time with females, when females hit menopause, actually, I mean, we start losing our testosterone in our 30s, and by our 40s, it's almost completely depleted. And nobody talks about treating female testosterone, but why do you think we continue to lose muscle mass as we get older? Why do you think when we hit menopause, all of a sudden you gain 10 pounds and nobody can figure it out? And, women are very complicated, but we get them back to where they can see definition in their arms again, or they have the energy to, like, so many women constantly say, oh, it's just, I'm a mother. I am constantly running around. They blow off. All of women just tend to blow off that they are always doing this, 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 and this. They're multitasking. They're traveling everywhere. They have to keep up with everything else going on. They're keeping the household, run properly. But you don't have to be tired doing that. So when we can make them feel like they're 30 again, when they're, when they have 4 kids or whatnot, it is a game changer. And then they have the energy to go to the gym. Even if they have that 30-minute time spot a day, So we definitely work with balancing out hormones, making people feel good internally. And we're more about that than, we want you to look good too, but we focus on how you feel.
And InBody's been another big help with hormones as well, in that very few people, when you replace their hormones, they can retain water, right? So they come in and say, I went on hormones and I started to gain weight. And then we can show them on the InBody, no, you didn't gain weight. You're retaining water. That's what's happening.
And then that eventually goes away. If you do, like, continuing your therapy, what happens is, like, the fat, you have your fat cell, and that goes down. It fills with fluid for a little bit, water, weight, and then that goes down. And then you start seeing your toning. And then as long as you're putting in the work and you're working out, you follow that up and fuel your workouts with the proper diet, it's a match made in heaven.
One of the things that I hear a lot about weight loss medications is that people lose their lean mass, or they lose a lot of that water from the muscles. And I've heard also that pairing those with hormone replacement can help put more of that water back in the cells and maintain that lean mass. Is that something perhaps that you've seen in your practice?
Absolutely. We're big fans of that. Not only because not everybody wants to go on hormones. I mean, we educate about them. We talk about what, why they're scared and how we can address that. We use bioidentical hormones in our practice, which are natural from the plants and the yam. They're the closest thing to mimic your natural hormones that you had. But we definitely see people losing muscle with these GLP-1 and weight loss medications in general, because even before they came out and people were on phentermine or even like Contrave, what happens is you tend to reduce your calorie intake. You're not hungry. They're appetite suppressants. And then when you do eat, you tend to not eat the right things. And so that's where I really focus on. Sure, if you don't want to do that, because if I do intermittent fasting, I don't eat breakfast, and so and sometimes we throw in 24-hour fast, but I can still gain muscle because when I do eat, I eat the right foods. And so we see that it's important to get that balance, and we also don't necessarily go up on their dose on those weight loss medications right away, because we follow with the InBody, and if I see they're losing too much muscle, or if they're not working the program and they really are just doing the medication, we have to retrain their thought process is really what it comes down to. So many people are fixated what's on the scale that they have to realize and see the InBodies repeatedly, one after the next. And when they start seeing that trend, it's an aha moment. They're like, oh, I see it, and if they're just doing medication alone and they're relying on the medication to get them that weight loss and they're not doing any lifestyle modifications to make changes for the better of their life, then the moment they stop that medication or the moment that medication stops working, because they only get you up to 15, maybe 20% weight loss, it's not going to keep going. And so when they hit that plateau, then they start worrying and they're like, well, now what? And I'm like, well, you should have been doing this the whole time. You need to be building muscle. You need to be working out. You need to eat right. So that's why another reason why we have them meet with us monthly, so we can help hold them accountable and make sure they're doing all those things, rather than saying, okay, here's your medication, come back in 6 months, and then nothing had changed, So we definitely see hormone helps, and then also amino acids. I'm really a big fan of amino acids, branched chain amino acids, essential amino acids. And I find amino acids are the building blocks to muscles or to protein, and that helps get your muscles in recovery, repair. And I make sure all of my patients on a GLP-1 or a GLP, GIP, any weight loss medications, I make sure they are getting amino acids. And we also like to put minerals back in water. So we use trace minerals for hydration, because a lot of people don't drink enough water. And so that's why I do like that you watch that on the InBody. And I find people who say, I'm drinking a ton of water. I'm like, okay, well, in theory, you really shouldn't have to, because a lot of our water is filtered, is too filtered. So we have to put minerals back in, and that can really help the whole metabolism and the function of the body. And it helps retain the fluid in the right way.
A lot of what you're talking about, I feel like you're helping really people find efficient ways to incorporate healthy activities into their lives. You're helping motivate them, keep them accountable, and giving them new knowledge to continue on their journey with. How does that all relate to brain protection in your program?
We're big on preventing dementia, preventing Alzheimer's, and we have found that there's a gene that we check for in most of our patients who are at risk for Alzheimer's, which anyone who has a family history of Alzheimer's should have checked, called the ApoE gene. And ApoE gene is affected by many factors. Sugar plays a big role. So if you have that gene, you need to decrease your blood sugar. Exercise has been shown to help insulin resistance, help decrease blood sugar. Exercise should be a major part of brain protection, dementia protection, especially if you have that ApoE gene. And then diet, of course, and then maintaining healthy balance between fat and muscle. I think all those things come into play.
With the ApoE gene, you're also at increased risk for heart disease. And so by using the InBody, we're able to see if they're ideal or optimal. If somebody has an excessive amount of percent body fat and they're not, in the range, like, every male should be 10 to 20%, females are 18 to 28. So if they're not in that range, we are going to work really hard to get them there, regardless of their age. We can always find an activity that, they have chair aerobics, they have chair Pilates. It doesn't matter, water aerobics, if you have severe arthritis. And I had a patient that was like so resistant to exercise. She's just like, Deanna, I've never had to in my life, and I just need to, and I don't want to, I don't like to. All of a sudden, she found that she is having the time of her life doing water aerobics with her girlfriends. And I'm just thrilled. She's now working out 4 days a week. And I'm like, I'm just, every time I see her, my jaw is just dropping. And she's realizing, because I've already been working with her for several months, and she was frustrated that she wasn't losing weight. She's diabetic. But showing the InBody, little progression by, little bit, she now is seeing that it's important to be healthy and stop looking at the scale, and that's what I just cannot drive home enough to people. Not only are we worried about like what you look, right? I know they're worried about what they look like, right? She's like, I just want to look better in my dress or whatever. And we're going to get you there. But my goal is to get you healthy. And we know with that ApoE gene, you're at risk for heart disease. And there is studies that show with ApoE and just Alzheimer's, walking alone and exercising every single day for 30 minutes a day, it can significantly reduce your risk.
And we haven't talked about this yet, but we also do body sculpting in our practice. We have the M-Sculpt Neo, and that's been a great tool for people to fine tune their bodies, right? And we can even do an abdomen, and then when you put them on the InBody, you can actually see that the muscle in the trunk has gone up.
Yeah, their core. And we find that that's awesome. I love showing the core specifically, because when we are working with people of, getting older, the core is where we balance. That's how we walk. That's how we prevent falls. And when we know if you're at risk, if you have osteoporosis and you fall and you end up in the hospital, it's not good. Like your increased risk for other infections, developing pneumonia, if you're not able to move, we know that your lifestyle will decline rapidly at that rate. So we work on that. Is, I guess, the biggest reason why we are big about muscle building and maintaining a strong, healthy, good quality of life. We're all going to age. Why not age gracefully? It's you choose your path. And I have a photo that I like to show patients of an 80-year-old female sitting by the window with her walker, looking out, wondering, like, she just looks like she's watching the children play and kind of like wishes she could be out there. And then I have a picture of an 80-year-old female in the gym with her biceps flexed, and she looks phenomenal. You choose your path. And so I feel like everything we do in our practice is trying to motivate people to choose the right path for them. And if you want to go that route, then we will help you achieve that.
You talk about frailty and aging and brain protection. One of the new products that we just came out with in our ecosystem is a grip strength dynamometer. And grip strength has been highly connected to cognitive performance overall. Is that something that you guys measure now?
We do.
We do, and we believe grip strength should be a vital sign.
Yes.
And especially so in our elderly patients, we do something once a year called the annual wellness visit, right? The annual wellness visit actually looks at fall prevention, and it looks at, making sure they're updated on their colonoscopy, their mammograms, everything, but
preventive screenings and vaccines.
But we also screen for dementia, and grip strength has absolutely been shown that your body is starting to decline when you see a significant change from year to year. And that's great that you guys have one, because we would love to incorporate that because the one we have now is okay, but
this one actually will integrate into the ecosystem where you could finish the body composition test, and then you connect the grip strength dynamometer to the scale through Bluetooth, and the data will go onto the result sheet alongside of all the other data, and that can also go up to the cloud and to the app for the business to manage and the patient as well.
Well, Bradley, we're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, when we first started deciding to do body composition in our practice, we didn't know one from the other. And we did a lot of research. Deanna did most of the research. And so she went and did her own DEXA scan,
Yeah.
did a few things. And we found your company by far to be the best out there.
Yeah. I actually didn't even like the DEXA scan. I thought it was just, well, maybe it was because the person didn't really interpret it well. And I was like, well, okay, then I like the InBody. It was very, the way it's laid out. I love how the data shows in the comparison that it has from your befores and afters and whatnot. And the app is also beneficial for our patients. Like they love that. They're like, oh, let me just pull up my app and all I can look. And then, they can link it if they did it at the gym. They can they see the one they did at the gym, or they do the one here in our office and whatnot, and we can compare the results.
Talk to me about return on investment that you feel like you've gained from the InBody. And in my experience, it can either come directly where people are paying you to come and do the test, and then other times it can come indirectly. And if I'm guessing correctly, it sounds like you've incorporated it into your program, so it's a part of your business. Do you actually charge for it? And what kind of return on investments do you guys see?
We used to charge for it. But when we first got it, we did charge for it because this was before the whole GLP craze, right? Before the whole weight loss craze. We've been doing weight loss for a long time. And so we were, I guess when we started in 2019, I believe is when it was, that we were charging for it at first. And those were the people who kind of really wanted to change their life.
We weren't charging so much for the tests. We were charging more for the interpretation. The time that we spent going over the report and making recommendations. But we found that this is such a natural device for everything that we do that it should just be part of every other package that we do. So when we do weight loss in our practice, I have a problem with places that do weight loss where they provide medication to the patients and that's it, and the patients are left on their own. You need to do way more than that. And so we have weight loss membership programs where patients are given the medication, but at the same time, we tell them, we need to see you once a month. We need to see you on the InBody. We need to track the InBody. We need to make adjustments, not just in your medication, but in your diet, in your exercise, in your sleep, in everything, and make sure that the appropriate thing is being done. And so at this point in our career, in our practice, I could not see ever being able to do anything we do now without using the InBody. Yeah. It's such an essential part of everything.
And now, we had people who aren't even our patients. They hear about it and they're like, can I come do the InBody? And now for them, they might pay for us to spend time to interpret it because they're not our patient, right? So we'll charge, a negligible fee for that, just because to get people in the door also, I'd say that's also an return.
And as far as return on investment, we've essentially paid off that machine years ago. It didn't take long.
Share from your perspective, if you were just getting started with an InBody, what kind of tips or tricks or hacks might you offer somebody to help accelerate their implementation of it or success with it?
Well, we did it for all of our hormone patients. We included the InBody with them to show the growth of the muscle mass and fat trimming. It's included with our weight loss pack memberships. We do it for stability. Even if you have a geriatric patient who keeps falling, we can do that, put them on the InBody and show them how important it is that they can fight, to get muscle growth back and prevent themselves from falling. It's really just an eye opener for so many people, skinny people. I give this scenario all the time. Like, you have a skinny young girl over here, and their BMI is normal, like you already said, but yet they're severely sarcopenic and their percent body fat is 38%. And I'm like, 38% body fat, but normal BMI. You're at more increased risk of heart disease and health issues down the line than I have a bodybuilder over here who his BMI is 40, showing he's morbidly obese, but he has 10% body fat. He is way healthier. The BMI just lies. And so you can incorporate this in anything you do.
there's a learning curve on learning how to interpret the results. So Deanna and I both did the training that you guys offered right at the beginning, the course on how to interpret. And now every employee we hire in our practice, every new MA, one, we have them do an InBody, and two, we go through their InBody with them, teach them how to interpret it, and so they are as capable of interpreting their report as we are. So sometimes we won't be here. We'll be at a conference and the patient comes in, and our staff, it feels very comfortable going through the report with them and explaining to them how what it means.
And talking about, I guess, ROI a little bit, going back. Now, there's no consumables on the InBody. It's a scale. You wipe it down, you clean it. There's no reason not to have this. I mean, we have drug reps who come in and we talk about what we do, and they're like, "What?" And so they get on the InBody. We throw everybody on it. We want everybody to be healthy.
Yeah.
Like it really is just like what we want from everybody. We just want everybody to be healthy and have that eye-opening experience. And really that's what, and then we can help them.
Any tips or tricks you've learned about interpreting the results related to being sensitive to the patient? A lot of times the data can be kind of challenging for people to accept.
I don't know if Deanna does this, but one of the first things I do is I look at the report and I say, how much weight do you think you need to lose? How many pounds do you think you need to lose? And I have been so surprised that 90% of people are right on. They're exactly right. They'll say, I think I need to lose 40 pounds. And I look at the report and I'm like, you're absolutely right. You need to lose 40 pounds of fat, but you also need to gain 10 pounds of muscle. And I find that softens the blow once they already have that expectation.
Yeah. I would definitely say use caution with the adolescent, like teenager age. But for the most part, with our patients, they know when they're getting on the machine, they're going to get the reality check that they need. And really, we haven't had to tiptoe around that much.
We have a lot of doctors come visit us in the office, and we put them on the InBodies, and it's amazing how many of them never even thought of doing body composition before. When we first started doing it, we were the only people we knew that had a body composition scale. Now it's starting to be more widespread. A lot of our colleagues, gyms, a lot of our colleagues have now gotten them for their office. We saw at the last hormone conference we went to that they were talking about it more and encouraging doctors who do hormone replacement to start doing it in their practice. I think it needs to replace the scale in doctors' offices. I think the days of the old balance beam scale that every doctor's office had, they need to go away. And you guys now have home units that patients can do at home themselves. They don't do everything that our bigger units in the office do, but they're still pretty good.
Yeah, and I think it's also it's more than just weight management. What we do and encourage people to go somewhere that does stuff similar to what we do, rather than just going to a weight loss spa or a clinic, just where you can get the medication and take it easy. That's not benefiting you in the long run. And so we also balance out, vitamin deficiencies, and we also check iron levels and thyroid. And so there's just so much more to the body than the weight. And that's what people have to realize.
If you're listening to this and you're interested in getting an InBody, you can visit InBodyUSA.com/beyondthescale. And a member of our team will reach out with a special offer for you there. If you're interested in connecting with Deanna and Dr. Brian, guys, where can they visit you?
We're located in Boca Raton, Florida. We have a website. It's hybridmedicalsolution.com. There's no S at the end. We are also on Instagram and Facebook under hybrid_medical_solution, or hybrid medical solution. We also have a YouTube channel that's Hybrid Medical Solution. And we also have our own podcast that's Hybrid Healing Hour, and it's on any where you listen to your podcast.
And our podcast is a good reference for people who we have. Each topic is a different health condition. And so if you find a health condition you have, we explain more about it.
I've heard of other providers starting podcasts. How has that impacted your
We
business?
didn't do it for that reason. Our podcast, we really don't promote our practice. We tell people information that they can take back to their own doctors. What it has helped us is it saved us time during the visit, because when we have a patient with, say, a thyroid condition, we tell them a little bit, but then we say, go listen to our 45-minute podcast on thyroid, and that's going to give you more information. And so our patients have really utilized it more so than new patients coming to our practice.
And they even they'll listen to a podcast and they'll come in, they're like, I have questions now. And I love when they're intrigued and they want to learn more and they want to take their health seriously.
Or they'll send it to their family who live in other states. We love doing the podcast. We enjoy it, but it is a lot of work because we put a ton of research into each episode.
I appreciate you guys coming here and spending time with me to share your expertise on your experience with InBody and your practice, and look forward to joining you on your podcast as well to share more there. And hope you guys have a great day.
Thanks, Berkeley. Thanks for having us on.
My pleasure. Bye.